Just don't care, I'm going everywhere. Just don't care, I'm going everywhere. Just don't care, I'm going.
Let's inaugurate YouTube's new policy on monetized content by talking about the least controversial thing we can find. Paedophile sex dolls. So by this point, everybody, I would hope, knows what a real doll is. And that's a lifelike mannequin sex doll, as lifelike as possible, that people who can't otherwise form relationships or have sex with anyone else, or even some people that do buy lots of these. It's a hyper-advanced inflatable doll, basically. So those exist, and everyone's a bit creeped out by them, but that's kind of understandable. But now there's this company in Japan making sex dolls of children for pedophiles. So Shin Takagi is the guy that runs this company. He's a self-confessed pedophile, and his justification for doing this is that it helps them work off their desires without actually harming a child. Is that a valid justification? Because I think everyone's first reaction upon hearing this kind of thing is just like, oh, fuck no. But if that's true, isn't it a good thing? Isn't it preferable to have them have access to these creepy, creepy dolls? Oh, imagine breaking into their house or something and finding one. Is that justified? Is it good if it prevents actual abuse? I think if we think cost-benefit, then if that's the case, that's a good thing. The guy that runs the company is a paedophile. He says it does. He says his customers give him feedback that it's true. It helps them deal with their desires. But is it true? Now, I can't re-find the study, but I do remember a study from Japan saying that access to child porn, the dodgier end of the adult manga category, did have an effect on reducing instances of recidivism and so on, and self-reported that pedophiles were better able to cope with their desires if they had access to this material. Now, with actual child porn, there's still harm, so that's not good at all, even if it helps others deal with their desires and work off their frustrations. That's still not a good thing because people are still being harmed. The cartoons, I don't think that harms anybody. Not my cup of tea, but I don't see the problem with it. Some collectors have run into trouble. I know the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund has intervened in a couple of cases to try and help collectors who have been collecting this material for historical reasons and other reasons. So I don't particularly see an issue with that, though I find it gross. This, though, it causes a much more visceral reaction, but I'm not sure that that's fair exactly. And it brings up all kinds of interesting questions. You know, to what extent do we allow our emotional reaction to override what may be a good thing? Can we do studies to show whether this prevents issues or whether it makes them worse? I mean, the suggestion is, in most arenas, that firstly, having these kind of outlets across the board does seem to have, as far as we can tell, a lessening impact. Like, greater access to pornography reduces rape, or at least correlates with reduced rape. We're not absolutely certain. You know, fake violence in games or exercise, if you go kickbox or whatever, that's a good way of working out your frustrations there, and seems to mean less violence. I mean, both regular violence and sexual violence have gone down since the introduction of the internet and since computer games became much more widespread. Again, correlation, not causation, but it is rather striking. So there's some suggestion that this might well be true, that access to these dolls, access to this material may reduce these problems. But where do we stop? Now, some of these real dolls are already not exactly human. Some of them have been made to look like characters from computer games and comic books and all that kind of thing. So that's already there. You know, we're already edging away. Should we provide anatomically correct animal sex dolls for people who are attracted to animals, you know, to prevent them abusing animals? Would that work? There's going to be robotics soon. So when they're already working on that with real dolls, is that okay? If you've got a child sex doll that responds to you as if it likes what you're doing, might that cross the boundary into being dangerous? Or if it responds in a way that it doesn't like what you're doing, if you're a child rapist that gets off on that. I mean, it's a robot, it's not a real person, it's just programmed reactions, but is that going to encourage you? Is that going to encourage you to step up? Because a lot of serial killers and so on, they start small and they step up. We need studies on this sort of thing. It's not easy, is it? Once you actually start thinking about it, past your kind of gut, visceral fuck no reaction, you need to know, does it help or not? What are the boundaries here? How far do we go? It's an inanimate object. There's already people putting sex toys in teddy bears and other soft animals. That's not good, is it? If you stop to think, it's really fascinating. And what about when if we get true AI? Would that be enslavement if something is programmed and completely given over to serving our perverted needs, whatever they might be? If that's in that thing's nature because we've made it that way, what responsibility do we have? What limits are there? And consider this. What if we transcend our flesh? What if we become transhuman? What if we can have any body that we desire? Why would it have to be human? Why would it have to be adult? And if you've got an adult mind in a robotic body that appears to be an animal or a child, or God knows what, something out of someone's deranged imaginings, a tentacle beast or whatever, should we prevent people having sex with that, or that having sex with other people? It's a conscious human mind in a body that's non-human. Interesting, isn't it? And just as a last thought on how our rational minds intersect with our irrational minds on this, there's an old science fiction story called If All Men Were Brothers, Would You Let One Marry Your Sister? Which is about this planet where it's shunned by the rest of the universe because incest there is legal and normal. And the idea stems from some rather dodgy psychological ideas that any kind of repressed lust causes you harm. So why not? And the rationale in that story is that, there's contraception and abortion. What harm does it do? So from a purely rational viewpoint, what harm does it do? But the taboo is so absolutely integral, so visceral that we react to it so strongly. Where are the limits of the rational mind's capacity to overcome the irrational mind? How do we negotiate this moral and ethical territory where technology outstrips culture and culture outstrips biology and evolutionary psychology? It's just not easy when you sit and you think about it. It gets harder and more muddied the more you think about it. But to bring us back full circle, if this kind of thing can prevent harm to real children, or animals, or people, why not? We need to study it. And studying this kind of thing is very taboo. You can't make any kind of effective, useful decision without knowledge. That would be my takeaway from this. It's a subject that obviously shocks and appalls and attracts attention in equal measure, but at the end of the day, the only way you can make a rational decision is with the full data. Just try and overcome your emotional reaction and see what you think. Is this okay? Is fake child porn okay? Are child sex dolls okay? Are animal sex dolls okay? If people could be transferred into different bodies, what should or would be the limit there? Consider people who roleplay online already inhabiting imaginary bodies that are nothing like their own for their perverse sex play. Is that okay? It doesn't harm anyone, does it? So where's the limit? Tell me what you think. If you like what I do here, please like, subscribe. You can find me on social media, on Twitter at Grimachu, James Desborough on Facebook, James Grim Desborough on G+. My main website is postmortemstudios.wordpress.com. If you want to help me out with a little money, which will go to support my games, writing and other projects, you can do so at Patreon, which is also Grimachu.